Hi my dear friends, today we will discuss about the media and cultural semiotic. The one who will present this topic will be me, Sister Lorraine, Sister Amy and Sister Judith. The topics of our discussion for today is about the history of the background, traditional and modern theories, definition, models and paradigm, and the last is about the application theory to research. Let us pause for some moment and take a look what is semiotic in your own words. Well, if semiotics, signs and symbols that you think are like this, you are right. What is the semiotic or semiology? Semiotic, also called semiology, is the study of the life of the signs within social life. More specifically, semiotic is a branch of the study of the culture that explores signs and sign systems as a models of communication and how the meaning of the signs and symbols are encoded and decoded, rooted in philosophy, logic, and linguistics. There are five semiotic systems, which included linguistic, visual, audio, gestural, and spatial. The texts that the students encounter today included many signs and symbols to communicate information, such as letters and words, drawings, pictures, videos, audios, sounds, music, facial gestures, and designs of space. Semiotic can sum up as a discipline that brings to light the importance of signs and symbols and how they come to represent ideas and concepts through our own perceptions and experience. Symbols technique analyze verbal signs like what you see and hear. Analyze visual signs like what you see and analyze the symbol message like interpretation of what you see. Semiotics has developed since the 1960s as an internationally influenced approach to research on contemporary culture and communication. Let us take a look about Ferdinand de Saussure in 1857 to 1913. He was a North American philosopher trained as a chemist. Saussure was a linguist and was interested in the study of the natural language and by extension of cultural systems. Hence, his concept of the signifiers exclusively to these systems. Charles Sandor Peirce in 1839 to 1914, since they were contemporaries and both developed theories of the sign. Peirce's seminal work in the field was anchored in reasonable and logic. He defined a sign as a something which stands to somebody for something. And one of his major contributions to semiotic was categories of signs into three main types. First, an icon, which resembles its reference, such as a road sign for falling rocks. Second, index, which is associated with its reference, as a smoke is a sign of fire. And third, a symbol is related to its referent only by conversation, as with words or traffic signals. Peirce also demonstrated that a sign can never have a definite meaning for the meaning must be continuously qualified. Now we look to Roland Barthes. Barthes' theory emphasizes how science constitutes culture and ideology in particular ways. According to Barthes, these messages are constituted in two ways: through denotation, the literary meanings and reference of a sign, and connotation, the meanings that are suggested by the sign. Diminution. This theory actually varies subject because it is unpredictable. Everything begins with language. Language is constituted by people to produce meanings within their culture.
From our studies and research, semiotics model consists of three main concepts. First, we talk about sign. Second, how sign composed of signifier and signify. And third, it comes to its meaning. According to these social tradition semiotic theories, it is a study of linguistic science, and he called this as dyadic model, the dual-layer theory. So what is signifier and what is signifier? According to these social, what we can see through physical reality, it is called the signifier. The signify explain how it is we conceive as viewer and how do we interpret it in what we see. When we talk about Saussurian tradition, it only focuses on the two main points, which is the signifier and signify. According to him, the connection between the signifier and signify is arbitrary. Arbitrary can mean that it is unpredictable. Example, on him giving this particular object an apple signify the physical existence, its sounds, its word, its image. Apple signifier red, its lips, it is round, and it is an apple. And what signify is the mental concept. According to the viewer, how do we interpret this? It can be a fruit, it can be its freshness, it's healthy, and it could be a temptation according to the Bible history, and it could be a brand in the computer. So this is how sign gives meaning through the signifier and signify. Another example given by him is this logo from McDonald's. When we see the sign of McDonald's, what signifies to us is what is invoked in the mind, in our mental concept. And what signifier is the things that gives meaning through its word and symbol and its particular image. Meaning, I love it. So this is how it creates meaning through the signify and signifier. Let us now pause a few moments to look carefully on this particular image and what are these signs signify to you. There is no right or wrong for these answers, but different persons have different interpretation of what they see through this image. So you may have your answers as we view this image by looking at this slide. Example, when you see this picture, what signifies to you? In contrast with Ferdinand de social tradition semiotic model, let us now look on Charles Sanders Peirce on his triadic model, the triple layer theory. This further explains the subdivide of each of the three triadic, which is the representment, the interpretant, and the referent, which is the object. This is also signified the study of meaning according to Charles Sanders Peirce. According to him, he used to distinguish between the interpretant and the interpreter. What is interpretant? It is in the internal, the mental representation that mediates between the object and its sign. Charles Sanders Peirce also opened the way to understand our action of science. He used to focus on the relationship between object of a sign and the sign that represents it is one of the determination, which is the object. He also stated that the relationship depending on each other, on the subject and the object, in order to produce the same meaning. It gives meaning through what it is emphasizing, the way we interpret a sign is. So let's take an example on this. Example on the color coding on hot and cold water. We see it usually as red as hot water and blue as cold water in a faucet, and which is the label. However, in some circumstances, it might be unusable or ignored, especially when it is not applicable on certain area where the single water supply, because the codes render it's inapplicable, even though there is a color coding. But if it is cannot be applied, then it did not give any meaning. Another example from Charles Sanders Peirce on the Dradic model is how we interpret the stop sign. Example, as we see this light, when we see the red sign on the traffic light, it gives meaning the driver to stop the car. This is how it forms lighting up of a red line that gives special meaning. And the reference for this, red, stands for stop. This Dradic model is how it, from its object, forms its actions and gives meaning to the viewer. According to Peirce, there is also three elements that is called the typology of sign. One of it is the icon. The second is the index and symbols. What is icon? Icon is a sign which resembles is an object, just like what you see at the right side of this slide, the gender symbol, where we can observe, especially in the comfort room. The next will be index. What is index? Index meaning comes from a direct and physical connection, like fire represents smoke because of a direct and physical appearance. The next is symbol. Symbol is arbitrary. It is unpredictable due to its absolute and inconsistent value. It was made, chosen, and acting without thought. It is also unconventional connection. Example with this symbol, when we see this, we know that it is a sign for recycle. From these three categories, icon, index, and symbol, it describes differently. As you see in this table, icon described as similarity between token and object. Example through painting, landscape, or portrait. Index is described as contiguity. It's physical or temporal connection between token and object, such as alarm calls. Another will be symbol. It is referred to convention. It's formal or merely agreed upon link in respective of either sign or object. Example through words, wedding rings, or special logo that represent a special meaning.